Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Scott Baradell. Scott is a writer and entrepreneur who grew his PR agency, Idea Grove, with business generated by its popular blog. Idea Grove is one of the top 25 tech PR agencies in the United States, a 3-time Inc. 5000 company and an Inc. Best Workplace in 2021 and 2022. In 2020, Scott started a second blog, Trust Signals, to provide news, analysis, and practical advice on what it takes to build trust with customers and the public in today's post-truth world. The blog inspired and culminates in this book. Before Idea Grove, Scott was a chief communications officer for $2 billion companies, the co-founder and CMO of a venture-backed startup, and an award-winning journalist. He lives in Dallas, Texas with his wife Maria and children Juliet, Benjamin, Jack, Christopher, and Maggie. So without further delay, sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's jump right into this conversation with Scott. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So we always like to ask our guests at the beginning of the conversation, before we even delve into the real juice of our conversation, a little bit about your journey, Scott. Even though I read your bio, which is a formal, description of who you are, we love for our guests to tell our audience in their own words a little bit about how they got to where they are today. So could you share that for us?
Sure. Like a lot of people, a lot of things happen by accident. I started out not really interested in business per se. I was a writer. I was interested in history in college. I was editor of a college newspaper. And then I got tired of spending time in the library and decided not to go into, to become a history professor. And so I had to go find a job. My parents basically said, find a job within 2 months of graduation or you're cut off. So I use my clips, my writing from the newspaper that I was editing to get a newspaper job. And it kind of went from there. I was a journalist for 6 years before I kind of saw the writing on the wall there. And then I went into corporate marketing, which I did for about 15 years, and then decided back when blogging and things like that on the corporate side were first starting to emerge, that I wanted to be part of that. So I started my own business at that time. But, from one phase to the next, it was definitely a journey and an evolution where it wasn't all planned out. It's what I like to tell like my 15-year-old daughter, as well as just young professionals. It's okay if it's not all planned out, just go in the direction of what you love and it should work out.
Awesome. All right. So can you tell us a little bit about your book, Trust Signals? Maybe 2 or 3 themes that the book talks about, and why it's important if you're running a business to be aware of some of these things.
Sure. Well, trust signals are just defined as, evidence points. And in the book, I primarily focus on evidence points online that make you more likely to trust a brand. So, for example, it could be coming across a positive review of a company where the use case sounds similar to how you might use a product, or someone you trust, a creator you trust on social media endorsing a company, or a media story in which puts a company in a positive light. These are all things that kind of can create a breadcrumb trail that can lead you to a company's website, where hopefully you've reinforced that website with lots of other trust signals like testimonials and case studies and other third parties saying good things about you. So that's really, the book is about that idea. And I wrote the book specifically with PR people in mind, because PR people have for 100 years primarily defined their roles as getting media coverage, getting their clients mentioned in the media. And in today's post-truth world, there's so much fragmentation that there aren't any shared sources of truth anymore. People go to the media and the other sources of information and influence that they trust. And so what what I try to communicate to my profession, since I was a PR pro after I left journalism, is in this day and age, you have to move beyond just trying to get um, stories for your clients in the media. You have to look at all of these other kinds of trust signals that together help your clients to win over audiences and to grow their businesses.
Awesome. All right. So trust signals are critical, as you mentioned, right? To grow your business. You mentioned
Right.
post-truth world, and um, I have an idea, kind of an idea of what that concept means, but I'd love for you to share with our audience what do you mean by post-truth world?
Well, what I mean is simply that in today's world, as opposed to as recently as 30, 40 years ago, um, the public doesn't rely on shared sources of truth. It used to be the New York Times was all the news that's fit to print, but now you've got probably a third of the country that says they don't believe a word in that publication. um, People get on the internet and the algorithms all point them towards information that confirms what they already think about things. They go into rabbit holes where they can dive deeper and deeper in a one perspective on things, which could be very different from someone else's and someone else's. And it didn't used to be that way. It used to be that you had a relatively small number of large media organizations that served as kind of the gatekeepers for information, the gatekeepers for public opinion. And it's not like that anymore.
All right. And in an organization, right, you have customers, and I, well, there is the popular saying that people buy from people who they know, like, and trust. And I still believe that to this day,
Right.
despite, all of the technology and artificial intelligence and, just so much that has advanced. I think it's that concept still remains, whether it's a individual or an organization. Why do you think trust is so crucial for people when they're making a decision? And do you think it has increased or decreased in the recent years?
Well, it's crucial to not just business, but everything. You're not going to get in your car and drive to the supermarket if you are worried that the red light at the traffic stop is not going to work, or that when the green light goes, that some a car coming from the other way is not going to. You're trusting that they're going to stop. Our whole society, everything we do, um, is built around this intricate system of trust that most of the time we don't even think about. And you're simply not going to buy anything from someone who you don't trust them. It's impossible to vet almost any product unless you've already used it and it's the same product uh, thoroughly enough without believing in the source of the product you're buying. And that's it's kind of the shorthand that all of us use every day to figure out who I should buy from, who I should work with, who I should work for. An employee is going to potential someone who's looking for a job is going to look at their employer's Glassdoor ratings before they go work there. That's a trust signal. And if they find a company they want to work for and they put their resume together, they're going to put in all the best endorsements and kudos they can think of, and those are trust signals. So it makes the world go round. But you had asked, do you think it's decreased? I don't think it's decreased because I think it's kind of immutable. I think that we need it. I think studies go back to even before the earliest days of mankind and even to primates and stuff in their hunting rituals. They do trust building rituals before they go out and hunt in a group to make sure that they will support each other and share their kills, for example. So it's just intrinsic to every form of human relationship. So a lot of people said, oh, it's post trust, not just post truth, but post trust. People don't trust anymore. And I would say that well, it's not trust a trust deficit so much as a trust displacement. In other words, you used to trust certain big institutions that you don't trust anymore. And so you have to go find something else to trust. It's like a big example in politics would be Donald Trump, for example. Donald Trump is someone who many people would consider very untrustworthy. However, in looking at his following, it's important to understand that clearly one of the reasons he's been able to develop this following is that many of those people had faith and trust in institutions that they lost that trust in. And people can't be without trust. They had to find somewhere else to put it. And they invested their trust in this person. So that's in that way, I say trust is displaced. It can be, you sometimes you're confused about where to put it, but you almost can't live life without putting it somewhere.
Mm. All right. So, could you also share with our listeners maybe, I would say, 3 to 5 things that, as a consumer, right, you should be looking out for, or do what are maybe 3 to 5 things that consumers look out for that gives them that confidence that they can trust, they can rely on this organization?
Yeah, well, I can give you an actual example from someone who works for me. She had a baby recently. Before she had the baby, she and her husband had been planning a nursery, and they'd gone over budget for the nursery, and so they still hadn't bought a crib mattress, and so they just said, let's go get the cheapest crib mattress we can find because we've busted our budget already. So Lori is her name. She was going to go do that, and then she remembered that like a year earlier, before she'd even become pregnant, that there was an influencer, creator that she followed on Instagram who was talking about the importance of getting a non-toxic crib mattress. And that had stuck in her mind. And so even though her inclination was to just go buy something inexpensive, that stuck in her mind. So she did a Google search on safest crib mattresses. And sure enough, she recognized the name of the crib mattress that this influencer on Instagram had mentioned a year earlier. And then once she found that, then she looked and looked up all the reviews she could find online, found a bunch of 4 and 5 star reviews. And then that drew her in further. And then she found that there was an article in Parents Magazine saying good things about this crib mattress. And then finally she went to the company's website and found out they had a seal from this certifying organization that like was vetting, non-toxic, environmentally friendly products. And then finally she was already at the website and she bought the product. And all of those are examples of things that consumers use as a collection of trust signals that they follow to either make a purchase or whatever destination they're trying to go to.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's really good. And she did quite a few steps. She did her due diligence thoroughly.
And most people do. And but when I tell PR people and when I tell that story to them, I say, but would she have bought the crib mattress if she had just seen the Parents Magazine article? Probably not. So why are you only focusing on that? Why don't you give your customer what they want? Your customer wants you to help them build trust.
Yeah, agreed. All right. So let's say, for example, we have some listeners who they're not very savvy in the online space, but they want to be known as a subject matter expert. Similar to what you're saying, that Instagram influencer was able to lodge that piece of information in her mind, right? And it stayed with her up to a whole year later. What are some things that you could do online to establish trust in an online space? Because it's so hard. There's so much noise. There's so many different platforms. And I mean, I know everyone has their own audience, and at the end of the day, if that customer is meant for you, they'll come to you because, they're, whatever message you're sending out there, your message will be attracted, to them. But what are some steps that you think or trust signals that they could be successful in that online space?
Well, if someone's interested in becoming a subject matter expert or influencer or building their own personal brand, there's really no substitute for producing great content. You have to, people don't know you, they haven't met you in person, and they're only going to know who you are if you show them who you are online. So I would start by two things, figuring out what channel is most important to you or most relevant to your goals. That can
Mm-hmm.
be LinkedIn. My agency works primarily with B2B tech clients. So LinkedIn is typically the most important channel.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on your audience, it could be TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or something else. So it can seem definitely overwhelming out there. So it's always best to start with a single channel. I'll tell you a channel that I used that helped me tremendously when I was starting to write the book is Quora. Quora is a great channel for
Mm,
leaving, questions and answers, and you can just kind of, maybe you don't always want to talk about PR and marketing. Maybe you want to talk about a movie or something like that. It kind of gets your juices flowing in terms of writing. And what I like about Quora is that generally the comments and the engagement is respectful compared to like a Twitter or somewhere where it can be so nasty. So for me, everyone's different, but whatever channel you choose one channel to start with and build out from there. Um, I've seen again and again people that start out on TikTok, for example, build a following, and then they move over and add Twitter. They move over and add LinkedIn, or start on Twitter and then add LinkedIn. So that's definitely the way to go. Don't try to do it all at once. That's the first most important thing. And then just like you want to be focused in terms of your channel, be focused in terms of your content. You need to um there's so much content out there. Unique. I mean, there's just it's overwhelming, and half of it's being generated by Chat GPT now. It's all so how do you stand out? The two ways you stand out are by talking about the same thing, not the same exact thing, but the same general thing that you're
mm-hmm.
building expertise in over and over and over again. Because what someone told me once is by the time you've talked about something 100 times, maybe you might feel tired of it, but the people you're trying to reach are just now hearing it. So
True.
just keep going, keep trying to find new wrinkles, find new ways to stay excited about it. Don't move on to some totally different topic before you've even built an audience for the first one. So I think being focused in terms of your channel and focused in terms of your content are the most important things.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Scott. Now, Scott, could you also share with our listeners what is the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
Well, in my business, we produce a lot of content, and we content is not very valuable if people aren't seeing it. So for me, I'm a huge fan of Google Search Console. I'm in there every day for sure for checking our own two websites. We have Idea Grove, which is my agency, their website, the agency website, as well as the Trust Signals website. I'm looking at that every day for insights into what content is resonating, what content to produce next. It really helps to inform and drive strategy, and we use it for our clients too. But that's probably my. I've got a lot of tools I use, but that's probably my favorite.
Okay. All right. And could you also share with our listeners maybe one or two books that have had the biggest impact on you? It could be a book that you read a very long time ago, or even one that you've read recently.
Yeah, there's a book I read a long time ago, actually in college, which unfortunately was a very long time ago for me. But it stayed with me, and as it informed a lot of things that I choices I made since. Actually, it's a book called Simple Justice. It was written by a man named historian named Richard Kluger, and I encountered this book, which is a very long one. It's thick, in a year-long legal history class in college at University of Virginia, and the book was basically a history of legal cases, which sounds extremely boring. But but what it was that was so amazing was it was a sweeping history of the entire African American experience as told through the American legal system. So,
Mm,
in other words, from Dred Scott to Brown versus Board of Education, everything in between, before and after, um, he took all of these court cases and told the human story behind them in such a way that it was like reading just reading, a novel that you couldn't put down.
Mm-hmm.
And it told me that, you know, taking something that someone would inherently think is not that exciting and making it exciting is really fun. It's a fun challenge. I work in B2B tech or my agency, and we work with some clients that work in very arcane spaces. They do this very, they do this fairly obscure stuff.
Right.
Sometimes they think they're boring. They're like, oh, you can't do anything for us. We're too boring. You can't get PR for us. We're boring. But to unlock that and capture something, the story in there, because there's always a story in there somewhere, to capture that and to have the client kind of light up because you help them find that is really exciting. And I kind of, in a lot of ways, I go back to that book and how I went from, oh boy, this long book of legal cases to, wow, this book that I couldn't put down. It's definitely had a big influence on me.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we'll have the book in the show notes of this episode. Can you also share with our listeners, Scott, what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
Um, well, something that exciting that we're doing now is we've begun offering our first packaged product. We're a traditional agency, so like lawyers or accountants, we bill by the hour. Basically, we sell our time. That's what most agencies do. We've never had a product per se, but we found we've had a lot of success with a specific kind of digital PR campaign where we kind of combine PR and SEO. We put out this really cool piece of content, which is a survey, a based piece of content that ties to our clients' industry, and gotten a ton of media coverage and links back to our client site from us. But we realized that we could package it up and just sell it separately and do it the same way every time to increase margin on it. And so we've been having a lot of success selling a product as an agency, this offering, and we've never done that before. And Idea Group has been around a long time now, and
Mm-hmm.
we're all really excited about, wow, there's nothing, doing something we haven't done before. That's always fun.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So our listeners would have tapped into this episode, Scott, and they're quite intrigued with your organization. They're quite intrigued with your book, as well as they would like to connect with you online. Where can they find you online if they wanted to reach out to you?
Well, the best place to go is trustsignals.com because that site's over 3 years old. I did a lot of the work that led up to the book on that site. Not only that, but if you're interested in the book but don't want to go out and spend $20 on it, I've excerpted the entire book chapter by chapter on that site for free. And I've started a podcast where I'm breaking down the audiobook into chapter by chapter. So that's available for free. So all of that, if you go to trustsignals.com, you can find links to either the audio or text version of the book or Kindle version as well. I and As well as a lot of other stuff, and as well as contact information if you'd like to reach me directly.
Perfect. So we'll have the links for the website in case any of our listeners would like to tap into that. Now, before we wrap our episodes up, Scott, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? It kind of helps to get you back on track if for any reason you got derailed.
Well, yeah, there's a great quote by a Japanese poet named Kinji Miyazawa, from gosh, probably how long ago? Maybe 100 years ago. But he said, "We must take pain and use it as fuel for our journey." At times where I've had loss or other setbacks that are very hard, and you just kind of want to give up. It's a really good statement of what life really is. I mean, life is about resilience, and no one goes through life without having things that they have to endure and suffer. And if you can come out the other side and burn it as fuel for your journey, I think that's a great way to take something hard and turn it into a positive.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Really powerful quote. All right, Scott. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy day and sharing with our audience a little bit about your journey, your organization, your PR agency, as well as your book, and just some of the things that will help to, I believe, magnify and point out in a very targeted way to our listeners that trust is a very, very critical component to customer experience. And if you really want to give your customers what they want, you have to develop a well-oiled strategy system, execution of that system where the trust factor is extremely strong. And you gave us some great points to support that and even examples as well throughout this interview. So thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Just want to remind our listeners to feel free to follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. And if you'd like to join our private Facebook group at Navigating the Customer Experience Community. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.